Hello everyone, welcome to an analysis of dance, where we discuss the movements and debuts of the Billboard Hot Dance Charts in immaculate detail, with in-depth reviews of each debut each week. Well, I definitely called the quality going into May, that's for damn sure. I mean, amongst our 7 debuts, we had some really good songs break through, and some genuine surprises that honestly made May really exciting. This was a really damn good week. I mean, especially after some quiet weeks in April, I'll definitely take this, especially when you compare it to what's likely coming next week from Millennium and even Jessie Ware, which isn't going to be as fun. I mean, I gotta hope this translates to the top 10, where I'm Good Blue by David Guetta and BB Rexa is stalling out on radio really hard at number 1, and given that it's collapsing in all other formats, I don't expect this to last at the top once something with actual legs comes along. Hell, if we skip past Bizarrap Music Sessions Volume 53 by Bizarrap and Jacare at number 2, which is just collapsing across the board, it's on its way out, we actually had Trustful by Pink at number 3, which is finally getting a real push to radio, and with streaming on board, yeah, I can see this actually overtaking soon and going for that number 2 spot, which is awesome. It's a great song. I mean, it's not like Hold Me Closer by Elton John and Britney Spears at number 4, or even 1035 by Tiesto featuring Tate McRae at number 5 are going to challenge it anymore, both absolutely being rotated out across the board. Even if the latter did get the boost from the album bomb, it wasn't really going to sustain much in other categories. But what could possibly benefit from these falls outside of El Merengue by Marshmello and Memo Terizo at number 6 with its strong streaming and decent radio growth is Baby Don't Hurt Me by David Guetta, Anne Marie and Coyle Ray up to number 7, where the radio is really on board, streaming is up, goddamn wonderful. Did this formula need to be repeated again for a second hit? Seriously? Thankfully, this also came with Miracle by Calvin Harris and Ellie Goulding in number 8, which has also got its own airplay and streaming, although not as strong as Baby Don't Hurt Me, but hey, it's still gaining, that's decent. But the main reason why these songs gained, River by Miley Cyrus down to number 9. And again, this is the second week that this song has absolutely collapsed in the top 10, which given that it's completely rotated out on streaming and radio, yeah, that's a bad sign. This is a flop single. Way to treat your fan favorite, guys. But finally rounding out the top 10, the weirdest top 10 entry I've seen in a long time, Narcissistic Personality Disorder by AAoD at number 10. And look, it's mainly here thanks to absolutely huge streaming, but with no radio support, I don't expect this to go up much higher. But still, this is really surprising that managed to get to the top 10. Good on him. Even if the song is weird, I'm not complaining it's here. I mean, that's certainly more interesting than our falls and fall-offs, where the most notable ones were probably Flare by Henson and Crying on the Dance Floor by Endless Summer and Violet Days. And I'm not complaining, both those songs suck. The falls though are what should really be noted, as we had an absolutely large list of them considering the high number of debuts we had this week. I mean, let's get to the obvious ones first. Off the debut, Upside Down by Medusa featuring Poppy Basco and fell hard to 41. Off the return, Next to You by Loud Luxury Dubs and Kane Brown is at 40. Thank God this is probably going to be gone next week with Illenium's album bomb. Oh, and on that note, With All My Heart by Illenium and Jake just absolutely collapsed down to 43. If the album Impact didn't come next week, this would have easily been gone. Wow, that song collapsed after some surprising stability. But anyways, back on topic, Ava Max also saw some losses with $1 Million Baby 42 and Ghost all the way down to 50. These will probably be gone next week while maybe All the Problem Sticks. Kinda interesting there. And both Relax My Eyes by Another and Able Bother at 44 and Lit Medina Danchante by DJ Goo Dog down to 37. They were both off gains that weren't really gonna hold up. The real question is if both survive next week, but different conversation. But the rest, wow, these were surprising. I mean, The Hard Way by PNAU and Khalid really continuing to flop down to 49. Call on Me by BB Rexa thankfully seems like it's collapsing at 39. And Clouds by Bunt and Nate Traveler exits naturally down to 28. But then you have those songs within the top 25 that took hits, mainly thanks to the weird jumps and high debuts. Giga Chad Theme by Geox M at 25, Rhyme Dust by MK and Dom Dollar at 24, Ghosts Again by Depeche Mode at 21, Hands Up by Barely Human featuring Katsuki at 19, and most pleasingly for me, Worth Nothing by Twisted featuring Oliver Tree at 20. Given that the song's hit 26 weeks, it will be gone next week and we can finally put that controversy in the past. Good. And of course, as a result of this, no comebacks at all, and the only gain was All Nighter by Tiesto up to 23 off the album bomb Impact. Shocker. But yeah, wow, that was quick. On to our new arrivals, starting off with number 38, Jacare by Sofi Tukker. Okay, Okay, so given that I absolutely adored KX5's collaboration with Sofi Tukker in Sacrifice, I was honestly curious what Sofi Tukker's solo material would sound like. I mean, this group's always been really consistent for me. I've really liked the last few singles off their last album, Wet Tennis, so I was honestly really excited for this, especially hearing that it was going to go for more of a disco house approach, which is new for them. I was really curious, and yeah, wow, they nailed it yet again. This is freaking great. What shocks me is that this sounds like something that Purple Disco Machine would make, in terms of the light disco groove, the really fun aesthetic, and that incredible bass line. But then you add those Spanish sounding horns, the pianos, and Sofi Tukker singing in Spanish about a lesbian relationship, where the titular line is both translated to alligator and also a derogatory term for lesbian relationships. It's honestly really interesting to think about. Honestly, it gives this a really unique approach that really understands the roots of disco's appeal and fits with the overall queer aesthetic of a lot of EDM. This is really faithful and I can absolutely respect that. So yeah, genuinely great song, really a lot more interesting than people give it credit. Hopefully this is actually able to return after the Millennium Album Bomb next week and actually stick around because that's really damn good. Check it out. Number 32, Be The One by Eli Brown. Honestly really surprised that it took this long for Eli Brown to chart on his own. I mean, for those of you who don't know, he's a rising techno producer who's most well known for collaborating with Calvin Harris's side alias Love Regenerator, and given that I love both Moving and We Can Come Together, I was honestly really excited to see what he had in store solo. And yeah, wow, this is really solid, although it does have a few things that hold it back from being great for me. I think the most obvious is the progression, where the synth melody is kind of repeated too many times across the song. It does have some impact at first, but does feel a bit weaker as it goes on. Give this some bombastic backing synths and really you could have increased the dystopic atmosphere and really made this even more interesting. That being said, I love the psytrance elements Brown implements here, especially in the percussion, which balances out well against the techno elements and creates a really hard-hitting beat that even with all the repetition still sounds great as all hell. Okay, look, even with my gripes against the repetition and that melody, this is still a really damn good song. Shame it probably won't stick around, but hey, I'll take it while it's here. Good stuff. Number 29, Be My Lover 2023 mix by Hypaton and David Guetta featuring La Bouche. La da da dee da, la da 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 dee da, la dee da 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 da. So, the original Be My Lover is an absolute classic, shocker to nobody. I mean, the production is classic 90s Eurodance, the vocal melody is an absolute earworm, and the soulful vocals of the late Melanie Thornton, rest in peace, sound absolutely timeless even to this day. So in classic David Guetta fashion of absolutely destroying Eurodance songs this year, we got a remix with him and a no-name techno producer called Hypaton, and honestly, I should hate this a lot more, but something about this really worked for me. I gotta give credit. This is the sort of remix that I wasn't expecting from David Guetta out of 2023, in that it's actually a very tasteful remix where La Bouche's vocals are completely intact and they sound really nice against this Morton sounding techno production that has a really nice dystopic atmosphere to it and some really damn good drops that match the energy of the original. Seriously, I was shocked how much this worked. This was the same guy who produced I'm Good Blue and Baby Don't Hurt Me in the past year. He shouldn't have any real reason to care about these Eurodance classics at this point, and yet he ditched all idea of money out of the way in favor of a really tasteful rework. Honestly, this makes me despise the other songs more because when David Guetta actually cares about the original material that he's sampling, he can make a really damn good remix out of it. And yeah, this is really damn good. I'll take it. Good stuff. Number 27, Praising You by Rita Ora featuring Fatboy Slim. Religion, this was a surprise. I mean, I wasn't expecting Fatboy Slim would ever return to the mainstream hot dance charts, especially given his last two charting singles were mainly Here Thanks to Club Play and nothing else. And that's kind of unfortunate because I really like what he's been doing nowadays. I mean, I actually saw Fatboy Slim live just recently and yeah, he was excellent. The sort of guy who really brings the personality, energy and songs to really back himself up on stage. He's a great presence, has a lot of personality unlike a lot of modern tech house DJs. But okay, new song song with Rita as the lead credits, an artist who I actually really like a fair bit. And yeah, I really like this too. This is a lot of fun. I mean, yes, you can really only tell that Fatboy Slim is here because of how much they heavily sampled Praise You in the song. And yeah, this doesn't hold a candle to that Big B classic. That song is a 10 out of 10 and an absolute masterpiece. But I won't lie when I say that the production here is really damn good too. The pianos and vocals work well over this house beat. Rita Ora really sells this song and sounds invested as all hell. And that hook is really catchy and plays off the original hook by Fatboy Slim really damn well. It's really well integrated across this whole song. It's the sort of song that, yes, does feel a bit gimmicky when you think about it. Rita Ora is really just building a whole song around Praise You and nothing else. But when it's this much fun and this infectious and even gets remixed by Fatboy Slim himself, there's a lot of faith and energy being put into this one. I really like it. It's a great song. Number 17, Beggin by Chris Lake and Aluna.
Begging, begging for me to leave her. Begging, begging, I'll get you begging, begging. Begging, begging, cause I'm your weakness.
It feels like Chris Lake has really outperformed all expectations for me. I mean, between In The Humor making the year and list, and now this song with Aluna debuting way higher than I expected, he's honestly showing a bit of stability on the mainstream hot dance charts, which is absolutely fine by me as he's one of my favorite tech house producers currently working. But okay, given that Aluna is one of my favorite EDM vocalists, I was really excited for this one, and yeah, once again, this is great. In fact, this might actually be my favorite of the songs I've covered so far. I mean, yes, Aluna is only part of why this works for me. She's got this exaggeration to her deliveries that really gives her a lot of personality and presence, and that cooing that she does on the post drops is just phenomenal. But Chris Lake really went above and beyond with the production. This is how you do minimalistic tech house well, keeping it nice and controlled and tight, and including elements that really complement each other and fit the vibe quite well. That little synth flourish on the second drop, the restrained chord progression, that really subtle bass integration, it's all really well integrated and plays off Aluna exceptionally well. This is really well balanced and really tightly produced. So yeah, probably my favorite of Chris Lake's charting songs. Just a goddamn terrific tech house song. I can only hope this sticks around, and given how high it debuted, it's likely to happen. Good, this is fucking fantastic. Number 13, Up and Down by The Chainsmokers and 347 Aiden.
Could see me now, I don't doubt, say it loud, came up from the underground, turned around, made it out, I wish that you could see me now.
Okay, seriously, who wanted this? I get that the Chainsmokers have been struggling to make hits after So Far So Good's album rollouts. That album was a complete flop for them, but working with 347 Aiden was just a terrible choice as he's one of the worst emo trap vocalists and gives me a mild headache every time I have to hear his goddamn voice. I mean, I'll at least give credit, 347 Aiden isn't the worst part of the song, he doesn't detract from it, but man, this song is a complete disaster even without him. I don't know what the hell happened here, but this is absolutely terrible. For starters, what happened with the production here? I get that mixing isn't the Chainsmokers' strongest aspect, it hasn't been for years now, but god, this mix sounds awful. The synth production is so dry and tries to balance their bombastic synths against the emo rock guitars and some really fuzzy production that sounds both flat yet incredibly annoying at the same time, and it just sounds terribly mixed. It's awfully produced and sounds like they just ditched the idea of structure or mixing out the window. You cannot dance to this at all. I'll at least admit 347 Aiden, even despite sounding as awful as ever, at least sounds more invested than usual. He's not going for the whiny, overly obnoxious singing delivery that's ruined some of his songs for me. Instead, going for a generic emo trap approach that, while awful, is not the worst thing he could have done. So yeah, this is crap, and like the majority of the Chainsmokers singles, this is going to flop and flop hard, and I'm absolutely not complaining about that because this song is terrible. Skip it. And finally, number 11, Chills LA Hills by Tiesto and a Boogie with the Hoodie. Okay, so this one shouldn't be surprising that it debuts so high. It was pushed after the album's release. One of the earliest tracks on the album has the A Boogie with the Hoodie feature. But man, I wish this was a lot more interesting. This is not bad, but it's easily one of the weaker cuts from Drive for me. Now, I will admit this has grown on me a little bit since I first heard it. It's not a terrible song. A Boogie with the Hoodie really is what saves it with his energetic delivery and a really nice flow over this production. But man, he hasn't really got a whole lot helping him out at all. Those pitch-shifted vocals, especially the screechy female vocalist at the beginning, just sound dreadful and really don't balance out well, and the production is a slow, tedious house dirge with no real melody and some flat bass production. It just doesn't really work for me at all. It's a shame. This has a decent idea and some dark atmosphere that actually work for me, but otherwise it's just a complete drag to listen to. It just really feels like it's longer than 3 minutes and it's a complete dirge all the way through. So yeah, it's not bad by any means. I get the appeal of this. A Boogie with the Hoodie does save it from being terrible, but it's also one of the songs from Drive that I hope doesn't really stick around. It's honestly pretty mediocre. I'd skip it. But even with that, this was a really goddamn good week. I was honestly surprised at how much consistent quality there is, especially with some of the names involved. I mean, yes, worst of the week's going to Up and Down by the Chainsmokers and 347 and with Dishonourable runner-up to Chill's LA Hills by Tiesto and a Boogie with the Hoodie, but the best is worth way more of my time considering how every other song besides these two was really damn good at worst. I mean, for the best, it's easily going to Beggin by Chris Lake and Aluna, although Honourable runner-up was actually a lot harder than I expected. I'm going with Jacare by Sofi Tukker, but honestly that David Guetta remix was a lot better than it had any right to be. You have no idea how close it was there. Next week, yep, it's the album Bomb for Millennium, although I've got to hope that Jessie Ware breaks for a few songs too, to at least balance out with some of the mediocrity. But yeah, we'll get to that when we get to it. But yeah, that's all for this episode of an analysis of dance. See you next time.